So, hello and welcome to another one of these monthly lives that I've been doing probably for the best part of 3 years now, talking to Ukrainian teachers of English from different parts of the country, hearing about their experiences, hearing about how Russia's ongoing war of aggression has affected them, and also hearing how they cope as teachers in the situations that they're in. I'm hoping that I'm going to be joined at some point by Iryna. I've just seen she's joined. Iryna, you'll need to press the little camera button next to the comment section. That's the one. Oh, look, you're a professional. Fastest ever. Usually people faff around for 5 minutes trying to get the hang of it. Maybe it's me that's going to faff around with it. 1 second. Ah, there we go. Hey, Iryna.
Oh, hey,
Can you hear me okay?
me? Yep, can you see me?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
Can see you, can hear you. How are you?
Not so shabby. Thanks for asking. But I'm just a bit overwhelmed because it's my first live in my life.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, so I'm shaking like a leaf. Yeah,
You'll be fine. You were
yeah.
very good at working out how to get onto the stream.
Yeah.
Well, where are you at the moment,
Uh,
Iryna?
so I moved to Kyiv
Okay.
already. But I've been living in Dnipro for 3 years, but like 2 weeks ago I just moved to Kyiv, so now it's like a new home for me. I'm just trying to find some stuff to do here, but actually it's pretty similar for me as Dnipro, so I just feel comfortable here.
How's
Yeah.
it been in Kiev since you arrived? Oh, 1 minute. You've frozen. Hopefully Iryna will be back. Let's see. I'm not sure what happened there. Sometimes this happens. Let's just see what goes on there. Seems to be a kind of ongoing problem with just internet freezes and things. I hope it's not me. Let's just wait and see if she can rejoin there. Hello to all the people joining us, by the way. Right, Iryna's just sent another request. Give me a minute. Let's see if that works. 1 second. Sorry for all the faffing around. Hey,
I'm here.
hello.
Hey.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, it's
So yeah,
so
how's Kiev been since you arrived?
oh, there is like hustle and bustle of the city and you can feel it.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, nights were really disturbing the last 2 weeks.
yeah,
But actually, I'm I'm used to living, under this pressure. So I would say just I'm trying to have my regular routine, and it's kind of helped me to stay like productive or whatsoever, despite this, missile attacks and disturbing nights.
yeah.
So yeah. But actually, I really like the ambience here. It's so beautiful city, and actually, I was really dreaming of living here, but for sure, I didn't know that, it occurred this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
if you don't mind me asking, how come you decided to leave Dnipro?
Mm, we were thinking about this for a while, and then we decided if it's not now, then when. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here is the time, right opportunity, but still I'm gonna visit Dnipro on a regular basis because I have some rights of dice there, and actually I really like the city and I have a lot of things to do, so it's pretty close to
Yeah.
Kyiv.
How long does it take you to get there from Kiev?
Oh, it depends. Yeah. Approximately like 6 hours if it's like intercity or more. Yeah, just a bit more.
Okay.
So,
And originally you're from Mariupol, yeah?
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
from Mariupol, Ukraine. Yes.
And that's where you were born, that's where you grew up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Positive.
I'm guessing a lot of people watching from outside of Ukraine will be aware of Mariupol because of the film, The 20 Days in Mariupol, and I guess because the horrors of what happened there became quite well known, and there was quite a few TV shows and documentaries
Hmm.
about it. Do you want to
Yeah.
just talk a little bit about your own experience of growing up there before the Russians came?
Yeah, sure thing. So to start with, Mariupol is the city where you can breathe the sea, where you can hear the cries of seagulls, where the industrial city was turning into a tourist one. Um, my hometown, as you already mentioned that, and unfortunately, home we lost, like physically, but I hope not forever. Um, as a child, I used to be like creative one, artistic one. I used to be a folk dancer until 2016 when
Folk
I broke
dancer,
my,
is that what you said?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, so folk dancer, yeah. Until I broke my leg during the performance, so it's actually forced me to stop my dancing career. So I was into dancing, even singing, I would say, drawing, dreaming, just a regular, average, happy child. And spending a while of time at my grandparents' house, which was a stone throw from the sea. So actually, it was really beautiful childhood. Nothing to complain about,
And
officially.
in your family, did you grow up in a Russian speaking family or a Ukrainian speaking family, or?
Yeah, I grew up in a Russian-speaking family, but all of my family actually speaks Ukrainian brilliantly, and I remember that my dad, my granddad, my granny, they were just trying to encourage me to read a lot of books in Ukrainian, to watch some movies, cartoons in Ukrainian, learn carols because I need to earn, this money as a child.
Yeah, yeah.
That time, my mindset was a bit different. So literally, this atmosphere of, let's say, nurturing traditions was all the time, and probably I should be really thankful to like my family, because it's actually wasn't that easy, I would say, because they didn't have um, those resources that I have right now, right,
Yeah,
to educate myself
yeah,
and
yeah.
to embrace that with the full power I have right now.
I guess
So
in the
actually,
pre-internet age, it was much harder. Yeah.
yeah, and I also know that one of my granddads, he's actually used to be Ukrainian speaking, but then the life turned like that way that he had to speak Russian to some extent, and for sure, yeah, like my family turned out to be that way.
Um, Hi, Olga. The topic of the meeting. Sorry, I'm just reading one of the comments there. It's just one of the monthly lives that I've been doing with teachers of Ukrainian to the people who are joining. And Iryna here is a teacher originally from Mariupol in Ukraine. And so we're just talking about her experience of learning English, growing up, her experience of how the wars affected her, and so on. Thanks for asking. And when did English come into all of this for you, Iryna?
Okay, I think that I've had a real knack for humanitarian subjects, and my parents noticed that. So at some point, I started attending private classes. Then in the 8th grade, I decided that I knew the life in English, and I decided to quit. Kind of a puberty rebellious phase,
Yeah, yeah.
but nobody forced me like to keep going or whatsoever. Then I think I hit a downturn with that. And my level wasn't that great, but by the 11th grade, I had to catch up with a lot of stuff because I was potentially a medalist. So, like all this stuff. And I had to renew my English classes and this, preparation for exams. And then I started feeling, oh, probably I just should get back to normal, from this phase. And I think there was like my story began with English, just from the private class there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did you study when you went on to university? Did you go to university?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I'm a translator by diploma, but it's not about English. English wasn't my major. It was Greek.
Oh, wow.
English, Greek, Ukrainian. Yeah, yeah. So, and it was amazing time, and I really like, I think I'm over the moon that actually I studied at Mariupol State University, because this university gave me like really great background and cultural and educational experience, because I had an opportunity to take part in Erasmus Plus exchange. So it's actually like gave me a great command of Greek that
Yeah.
time. Now it's a bit
Well,
rusty.
why
Yeah.
Greek, if you don't mind me asking?
Because as you might heard, there was one of the biggest Greek diasporas in Ukraine.
Was in
So
Mariupol. Yeah.
I know that it's like working or have like some prospects to work in this field as a translator or teacher or whatsoever, as a linguist, knowing and not only English but other foreign languages, gave me a lot of opportunities to speak out at least, to travel a lot, and just again be a teacher, because actually I started thinking about teaching
Yeah.
career at that time.
And I guess for people who don't know, who are watching, because of its position on the coast, Mariupol,
Mm-hmm.
a bit like Crimea, has a long history of interaction
Yeah,
with the Greek world, and names taken
totally.
from Greek, and so Greek-speaking diaspora is still there. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yep. And they maintain their cultural roots, their dialects, like Romaica, etc. So yeah, you're right.
yeah.
I know a lot about that.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so, from all of that, what are when did you become a teacher?
Um, I would say that it was at university, because I started to be involved into homeschooling. And there was a lot on my plate, because I was working as outstaffer and at Adidas. I was homeschooling, and I just believed that it's like I had a lot of opportunities to earn extra money and still to learn languages. But actually, this fact that I helped some young students to learn present simple or whatsoever, gave me this feeling of significance, and
Yeah, yeah.
when they
Bit of a
get
kind of
some
confidence boost.
great marks, it's, oh my Lord, yeah, I'm changing this world. Yeah, yeah. So it's probably was my start, this like one-to-one lessons. I was just visiting my students' homes, just have this offline lessons, kind of a first great experience. Yeah.
And what are your memories of 2014? Because I know there was an attempt to take Mariupol back in 2014 as well, yeah?
Yeah, that's right, And as I already noticed that not all people know about it, and I'm not talking about like only Ukrainians, actually my foreign friends, like 2014 is like something like, oh, something happened there. Yeah. So I would say that my memories of 2014 are relatively blurred, but on the flip side, really intense.
Hmm.
Because it was my 11th grade, like on the one hand, you like the war in Donbass
Yeah,
began. On the flip side, you are, like in utopia, you are rehearsing graduating waltz,
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
preparing for exams. And in May 2014, pro-Russian separatists briefly took control of our city. And I just remember some of these days, because even phone reception disappeared for like some point of time, at some point of time. And I remember we like, took a stroll with my mom in the afternoon. It was like, apocalyptic scene. I wish wish I had known that it wasn't one. So the one would be in 2022, actually.
Yeah.
And I still remember that then in 2015, like it was a day when I was working as outstaffer in Adidas. Like I was thinking, like, where are the people? There. Nobody visited our shop that day, and actually, it was the day when I think Russian-backed forces shelled residential area in Mariupol. So literally, it was like, let's say, pretty hard day, and nobody expected that scale at the time. Anyway, it was really overwhelming year, and then I need to take ZNO. It's kind of an exam in Ukraine for those who are at school back then. I mean, so literally we were really stressed out, but still you remember, this kind of events that change your life and future forever from that time.
Yeah.
And for those, yeah.
Well, were you aware at the time that the Russians were also using all of like the bombing of the civilian blocks as propaganda themselves? Was that something you knew about at the time? Because I mean, I think at the time for me, I still was going to Russia at this point. I still used to travel there, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I fully understood what was happening and the way it was working. And I
Mm-hmm.
know now from talking to like friends in Donetsk that the
Mm-hmm.
Russians were bombing civilian blocks and then filming it and then saying this is the Ukrainians doing this and this is why we have to go there. And were you aware of that in Mariupol at that time? That there was a kind of propaganda element to it?
Definitely, it's like an Orwell utopia. So there was a lot of propaganda, but actually people who are, let's say, who weren't influenced by this propaganda, they knew everything, and they were stable, and they actually just tried to do what they do as a routine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say as schoolers, as a schoolboys, schoolgirls, yeah, it's actually there were a lot of like you'd say fake facts that
Yeah.
actually some adults try to encourage you to learn or whatsoever, but for God's sake, there were some other people who tried to protect us. For sure, I wish I had known even more at the time.
Yeah.
But okay, so we were 17, 18-year-old
Yeah.
youngsters, and okay, it's actually happened. Whether we could change something, I'm not sure at this
Yeah.
age. So it was something that was on for a long time with the really prepared propaganda for years.
Yeah.
And it's something that was really inevitable. Unfortunately, we hadn't seen it for a long time. Or, like, again, the side was blurred. Yeah.
And so after 2015, after the kind of attempts to, I don't know, like create a Mariupol's People Republic or whatever, after that failed, what was life like in the next years after that? Did everything kind of go back completely to normal, or was it tense, or were you
Mm-hmm.
aware of the conflict in Donbass, or how was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you felt it in the air. So you were living your normal, let's say, life, but for sure you noticed that some processes already started, inevitable processes which led to the full-scale war. Um, Even started with, let's say, some corporation that withdrew their representatives from our city. Yeah, big corporation, let's say as a McDonald's,
Yeah.
right? And you felt that, yeah, you're just on the front line or something. And for sure, we had a lot of acquaintances, friends, relatives who were in the army even that
Yeah.
time. So literally, it was part of our routine. We saw this with our own eyes.
Yeah.
So may I say that it was a new normal
Yeah,
reality?
yeah,
Was it caring? I can't say that. Like now, while I'm thinking of 2020, 2021, it's, like there were a lot of, uh, I don't know, mind-blowing events in our city. Our city was, like a cultural mix of something great was actually nourishing those days. And now when you are just get back to these memories, you saw that, yeah, I saw some signs, and the war probably was inevitable, as already mentioned that. But again, this life, yeah, starting from the 2014, became like a normal, again, a new reality
yeah,
for us. And we got used to living in it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess it's strange what people get used to. I mean, I was in Kharkiv last week, and very, very quickly I got used to just constant air raid sirens. It was just like you just kind of shrug and carry on with your life. It's really weird how quickly you adapt to
Yeah,
things happening that you're not normally used to. Yeah.
100%. 100%.
And
And vice versa,
yeah,
actually.
yeah. And how far, for the people that don't know the geography of Ukraine, how far were you from, say, the front line from what was going on in Donbass?
When I was in
Yeah,
Mariupol,
in
or
Mariupol.
um, I'm not sure that I can, provide like some figures because I haven't like, like checked the exact
Measured
ones.
it, yeah.
Yeah, but it was pretty close because again, some of acquaintances, let's say friends or whatsoever, they were living in some villages or in the countryside, and actually it was pretty close. And then I started having a lot of students from Donetsk,
Yeah,
which actually moved to
yeah,
Mariupol. And when I started hearing like the fact that it's, let's say, open the door and here is a front
yeah,
line, actually it was, uh, it's a painful truth. So to some extent, yeah, it was brutally
yeah.
close, I would say that.
And so already during this point, before the start of the full-scale invasion, in Mariupol, you're seeing internally displaced people coming from Donetsk and coming from Lugansk and stuff, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mainly, I have, I don't know. I think it's a coincidence because my husband, for instance, he has some friends from Luhansk and Luhansk Oblast. Um, as for my students, I don't know, just a coincidence. I think I have mainly from Donetsk, and I just vividly remember this lesson. There were some nurses and doctors from like local hospital, I think, and we kind of, I didn't know that they're like from Donetsk, and I like prepared, this first class when you like get to know each other as breakers. And one of the questions was about like your hometown or whatsoever, and for sure it just appeared that we have a really nice and warm and open-minded chit chat, but to be honest, we were crying. And that time, it just struck me that, oh my lord, like, I don't know, I felt their pain, but it
yeah,
was like in 2020, I haven't lost my home that time.
yeah,
But I just saw their eyes, they were so desperate, but with hope. So I just wanted to give them everything that I could, the all warmth that I can share with these people. I don't know, give all my knowledge, of English, whatever, just to comfort them. And I really hope that they're alive. It's one thing that I'm thinking because unfortunately, we haven't been in touch. I haven't saved their like contact numbers because we are working through the school, so it's
yeah,
impossible, like to exchange contacts. Yeah, I'm just thinking and hoping that they're alive because actually they lost their home in
yeah,
2014.
yeah,
They moved to Mariupol, and they actually, um, hopefully, were obsessed with our city. It was like a new home for them, and then, yeah,
I often think
basically
about
that.
these people who have been displaced multiple times. I mean, I have a friend of mine who is originally from Lugansk and then moved to Kharkiv, and then when the full-scale invasion started, left Kharkiv and went to Odessa, and then found Odessa was getting bombed all the time and ended up in Romania for a
Yeah.
while. And it's just like, how many times do you have to move before you get left alone, you know? It's, yeah, I think about those people a lot. And so already at this point where, because I think for a lot of people in other areas of Ukraine, so, you know, if you're from like Zakarpattia or
Mhm.
I don't know, you know, even Kiev,
Mhm.
you know, Lviv, those areas, at this point, I think the war was still quite distant for a lot of people, yeah? But you're saying for you, you already knew people who were in the armed forces, you were already seeing a lot of internally displaced people, yeah? Yeah.
Mm. Oh, I would probably leave kind of a comment here. You know, I was thinking about like different people, let's say in Ukraine from different cities. I mean, and you know, like the conclusion I can like have here. So I don't think that you really need to be in a siege, or you really need to lose your home physically, let's say, not only mentally, to okay, I won't say the same pain, yeah, to feel the same, just to feel the pain, the reality of work, because you know, people, maybe it's just my bubble, yeah, right, my friends, acquaintances, whatsoever, but these people, they are so emphatic, and when we are just sharing some facts, for sure, I'm not like, hi, I'm from Mariupol, I just no, I'm trying to not to traumatize these people, you know, with this like stories, unless they ask me to share some facts, right?
Mm.
But still, the people I interact with, they're just the way they help our army. They just involved into the, again, assistance, the constant assistance we really, let's say, require. They just stay in the loop of thinking what they can do on a regular basis, you know.
Sorry.
Yeah. So,
I
but
guess,
it's just my experience for sure.
no,
Yeah, I can't speak
I hear
for
you,
the.
and I think the full-scale invasion opened a lot of people's eyes, not only inside Ukraine, I mean outside Ukraine as well.
Yeah,
I mean, for people like myself
definitely.
who I think hadn't fully processed what was happening up until that point, when the full-scale invasion started, it's like all the scales drop from your eyes and you see things very
Yeah.
clearly suddenly, yeah? So I guess the other thing I should ask is, before we come on to 2022, I know that around 2014, in order to defend Mariupol from the separatists,
Mm-hmm.
um, the Azov Brigade was formed, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
And,
right.
you know, obviously it's the source of a lot of controversy outside of Ukraine. And I have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people who basically know nothing about Ukraine, who don't really understand the internal context or the politics, who've been persuaded that Azov is some kind of, you know, I don't know, neo-Nazi brigade or something.
Mm.
So I wondered if you could just say a bit about Azov and your knowledge of it.
Yeah, for sure. I heard like this fact that you mentioned. Um. Okay, I try to use more diplomatic language right here. Yeah. Let's say when people do not operate with facts and they just rely on propaganda and just fiction, you know, probably I recommend reading Orwell, you know, Utopia story. So let's start with this, reading books, history, and so on. As for Azov in Mariupol, I didn't see anything harming that this like organization, yeah, let's say did to our city. I just saw only benefits of that because they sponsored some sports sections, and anywho, they were defenders of our city in 2022.
Yeah.
And I'm the person who were a lot on the streets when the siege started. And I see, like, let's speak only for myself, right, with my own eyes, that nothing this Russian propaganda tries to uh, let's say, advertise to promote, yeah, it's nothing but propaganda. But one more thing that I also want to share about it, I just do not want to underestimate the power of propaganda. Because
Yeah.
some people say, oh, yes, if you're under propaganda, you're the silly one, so start reading books. Yeah, like I just said this probably 4 minutes ago, but my point wasn't there. Actually, propaganda is really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I know some acquaintances, people with multiple numbers of diplomas, I don't
Yeah.
know, with the libraries and their, just it's a metaphorical language right here, in their homes, they actually were influenced by this propaganda.
Yeah.
And while talking to them, I was like, you know, I was petrified. You know, it was like a feeling of nausea in my stomach, and I was actually wasn't able to describe that. Like, how is it possible? But then when I started to dive into this question, it's more than manipulation techniques,
Yeah.
right? It's more than that, and people shouldn't underestimate its
Yeah.
power. We should be aware of it and be not only educated enough to fight against any forms of propaganda, but actually we need to keep our like sanity and, I don't know, be aware of some more things than just, the stuff we learned at university.
Yeah. No, I think you're
Yeah,
right. I think
at
it
least
is.
informational hygiene, I would say.
Yeah. I think it's very powerful stuff. And like I said, I mean, I know quite a lot of people here living in London who have absorbed all this stuff, and you realize how clever the Russians have been at targeting certain kinds of audiences in the West who basically know nothing about Ukraine or the history of Ukraine or the history of Russian-Ukrainian relations, but have all these opinions about the country. And it's like, where do these ideas come from? Where did you get this stuff from? And it's been
Mm-hmm.
very cleverly fed to them through social media channels and through, you know, fake videos and fake journalists embedded with the Russian army in Donetsk and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, I find that really scary when people who've never been to Ukraine start telling me about, well, Russian speaking Ukrainians support Russia. It's like, you know this how? You know, you've met which people, you've been to where? And you realize it's just very, very clever, very deep propaganda that's, you know, it gets everywhere, I think. So yeah, absolutely, the whole idea of sort of information hygiene and trying to keep your brain clean.
Because it's it's been inserting for years. Okay, I won't speak for centuries. Yeah, I mean it wasn't like a form of propaganda, but still other forms. But for years, with millions,
Yeah.
right? So it's not just like fake video on social media. No, it doesn't work this way, and which is why it's really dangerous, deathly
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just really like feel this urge to inform people, to warn people, just stay out of it. And
Yeah.
if you see some people that you still can help out with that, just do this.
Yeah.
It would be one more conscious person in our
Yeah.
society.
I think, and you have to recognize which people you might be able to reach and which people are too far
Yeah,
gone. Yeah.
yeah,
You know.
you see that. Yeah, you see that.
Yeah. So I've been kind of holding off asking you, but maybe we can talk about 2022 and about the start of the full-scale invasion and what your experience was of that in Mariupol. If it's okay. I mean, if there's anything you don't want to talk about, feel free just to stop, Iryna, because I know it's a big question.
No, it's okay. I really want some, let's say, English-speaking people hear that,
Thank you.
and probably it would be a really like meaningful discussion right now. So 2022, I met in Mariupol, and let's say the last 2 months, this festive mood before the full-scale war started, like new dreams, wishes, just festive decorations, festoons, around the whole city, and then you woke up just because your father-in-law called you and say the full-scale war started, you need to pack. And you think that like maybe I'm still dreaming. On the flip side, you already felt this. Your intuition and clear mind whatsoever just helped you there, but you didn't see it because it's the question about your hometown.
Yeah.
And I would say it was like the first day. We were living in the center of Mariupol, so I would say the 24th was probably the calmest day. Because we actually have opportunity to kind of plan what we're gonna do, but it was a lame plan, I would say. I realized that we need to start packing. My husband was pretty delusional because of that, because probably he was even under more stress than me, because he was like kind of responsible, right, for allocation or whatsoever. And then I would say apocalyptic scene started. So the first day, like public transport was operating. Yeah, it was like a panic, but people kind of tried to, I don't know, steal back to normal. Some people even went to work like the first day or whatsoever. But it was only like for 1 or 2 days. Because then, like, if you watched Don't Look Up,
Yeah.
it's like the end of this movie. It's actually that's something that I saw with my own eyes. It's just during the first day. It wasn't about panic or whatsoever. It was about this disaster. People were in a can, let's say, abandoned, left to fend for themselves. And then our routine started. So we woke early in the morning. I just want to highlight that there wasn't neither gas supplies, no water, food, right? So you were able to buy something only on the 24th, 25th, and all the shops were closed. And I even won't say, unfortunately, survival looting started.
Yeah. Yeah.
People need to survive.
Yeah.
And I would say that it was our naive and stupid mistake that we decided not to get some food from shops, because we actually, like our family, decided that, okay, guys, it's the 21st century. We're gonna be rescued. Some associations, humanitarian ones, they kind of like stopped this, gave people this green corridors whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it was really stupid, the most stupid decision we ever made. And actually our starvation started at that time. So we decided that, let's say, we get by on leftovers we have. We started our days early in the mornings. Some people already started to melt snow for water, and it was like unusual spring, like end of February, spring. It was really cold. It
Yeah.
was like below zero. To some extent, it was, some benefits of that, if I may say. To some extent, not. So people could melt some snow. It was one advantage of that, of the being in the siege. Probably we were lucky ones because we were living near the water supplying station, and people who worked there tried to maintain this water supply only just with one track as long as they could. But can you imagine this apocalyptic like city? Even the first day it was like, oh my lord, I am in surreal reality or whatsoever. And they were queuing along with me and like my family to get some water just to drink. Yeah, we're not talking about hygiene, right? And actually it was a life hazard, because along with this queue, you can see corpses, I'm sorry, on the street. And my family, like my dad, my husband, they try to, distract me, from these corpses, because actually I haven't seen that many that my nearest and dearest could see, because they try to protect me. Then when we got some water, we went to my granny's. We cooked some, stuff as a breakfast, lunch, dinner at, one sitting over the fire. Actually, the house that I mentioned, which was the stone thrown from the sea.
Yeah.
When we cooked that, we went to my other granny. She was with my mom and my aunt. She was temporarily disabled because of some traumas and the age. And then we went home, just sitting and waiting for the next day. It was real life hazard.
And
Me,
all
my
this time,
husband,
Iryna, were the
yeah.
Russians continuing to shell the city all this time?
Yeah, all this time, and we
Yeah.
were running, and now why I'm telling you this, I'm thinking I'm like one of a kind person, because while we were running, people cooked over the fire. It was life hazard in the yards or in the shelters, but it was unbearable. But again, it was just, I don't know, insane decision that we made. Probably the fact that we lived in the center of the city, and everything started on the outskirts.
Yeah.
We still have time, for this run. But again, if you're running, you can hear the plane's engine. You kind of see somewhere near the building, like frozen, and then you run. You just run or lie down on the ground, and you don't just walk and enjoy rubbles or whatsoever. So it was a routine. Yeah. And then you got back to frozen apartment and just sleep in the shelter or in the bathroom at least. Yeah.
And at this point, were you able to contact other people that you knew in the city? Were you able to keep in touch with
No,
people?
no. Phone reception disappeared. I can't say the exact day, but probably the first 3 days.
Yeah.
So literally, I started the family. We were lucky to live very close, so we just, running across the streets, and then we just collaborated and lived at one place, as a lot of people from Mariupol did, and not only with families, neighbors, and whatsoever,
Yeah.
just to be, a team. In order to survive. Then I just had an obsession to check on my friends. And some of my friends lived in my neighborhood in the center. So we just, with my husband also, like marathon runners, tried to check on them, tried to inform that we just about to stay or leave. And, this kind of a last century way, we just checked on our friends, literally just came uninvited to their houses or left some notes like, we are alive, what about you, and left some notes in the door or mailboxes, for instance.
And so I'm guessing you weren't managing to wash or anything during this time, no?
No, you just have the water
For cooking and
for
drinking.
basic for drinking. For sure, I try to, let's say, arrange some beauty routine, just to have a bit sparkling face and skin. And I still remember that I have some body sprays, I have some napkins, and it was like our spa routine during the siege. Yeah, but for sure you couldn't take a bath or whatsoever, no.
And what were you managing to eat at this point?
As I told you, it was really naive and the stupidest idea not to
Stock up?
just grab some
Yeah.
food in the market. Yeah, it was selfish, I would say. Yeah, like that time we think it's noble, but it was selfish. No, when you starving to death, and when you can even see that your body is about like to change, like
Yeah,
it's like swollen or
yeah,
something, you don't think about the snowball things anymore.
yeah,
You just have this wild fear. But in my case, I was frozen. I didn't feel anything because I'm really anxious person in just regular life. Probably at that time something changed in my mindset or whatsoever. Like defensive mechanism probably. So what we ate, thanks to our like parents, they have some frozen stuff in the freezer, like a bit of meat, milk, flour, whatsoever, and we just tried to cook something as a mixture of something that left. For instance, my granny, she baked some pancakes because she has like open milk, so we just had pancakes for 2 days. Then my husband cooked like a soup or something because we have some mushrooms from his vacation to the west part of Ukraine. Like this. It was really tasty. I still remember this taste. We were dreaming about bread. There was no bread whatsoever. And then we found probably our neighbors gave us some cakes or sweets. It also was like a cheat meal when you start. Oh my lord, starving. Yep, and I think that's it. So some leftovers
yeah.
from the past life, and hopefully I had birthday on the 22nd of February. So when like you have some birthday party, you have more leftovers than usual. Yeah, so it kind of helped us to you know uh, keep operating and just have some strength to cook something over fire and just
And
uh,
so
have fun. Yeah.
inside the city, how were people dealing with the corpses? What were people doing? You said there were like corpses in the
Mm-hmm.
streets and things. Did people manage to bury them, or what? How did that work? What happened?
So probably I'm gonna comment like this part when the siege, was, and I'm gonna probably speak for my acquaintances because I'm not, let's say it was a lot of scenarios,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
um, we have a lot of people who actually, let's say, they were like fighters, inside. So literally they took responsibility to bury some people in the neighborhoods, in the yards, in the parks. It depends on what part of city you used to live. For instance, our closest friends, like I would say friend, this woman, she lost the whole family, her sister, um, husband, sister's family, like almost the whole family, her parents, whatsoever, and neighbors who were indifferent, they helped to bury them
yeah.
until
Can't hear you, Iryna. Your sound's gone. Your sound's gone. Can't hear you.
Mhm.
Try again.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Instagram sent me some notifications, and the sound was turned off. So actually, neighbors helped with that, and indifferent people, I would say. So it was only on shoulders of people from Mariupol. That's it.
And how
So
long?
obviously, yeah.
How long did this go on for you?
Um, we, like part of my family, left Mariupol on the 16th of March. And actually, it's the day when the bomb landed on Drama Theater.
Yeah,
So it was actually the, I don't know, deathly dangerous
yeah.
day in Mariupol. And it was after the news that we realized that one of our closest friends, they were, let's say, killed because of the airstrike at night. In let's say they were living in private sector, and it was like night airstrike throughout the whole city. And except for one person, this woman that I already mentioned, all the family were buried under the rubbles. They were whispering for help, and only she could survive because neighbors, when they kind of saw the dawn, they agreed to help her because they heard like whispering, and actually they saw there was like 3 floors big house, and it's vanished. So they just tried to help to get her out there to carry out some rubbles, but her husband, her parents were buried alive there. And after we know that, it was a sign. So, you know, when something deathly awful happened to your closest people, you start feeling it, that, yeah, it might happen to you.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy because when you're already in this apocalyptic ambience, but your psyche try to say
It kind
it
of
won't
normalizes
happen.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't happen to you. It's shelter. It's like your home. It's actually why some people still stays in, you know, like Pokrovsk or
Yeah.
whatsoever. I know that it's irresponsible to some extent, but like you have children, or I don't know, you have opportunity to go somewhere. But actually, I've been in their shoes. And I remember that I just threw a temper tantrum. Like I was screaming. I didn't want to go there, but I was young. Like I do not have children. I have nothing to lose. I mean, like I didn't have even a flat, like my own flat. But I, at this age, was throwing a temper tantrum, and I was begging to stay. And for God's sake, people didn't listen to me because I would be dead. Like, I'm sure, because I know what happened to this fight. We were there. I would be dead 100%.
And how did you get out? How did you find out there was a route out? How was the experience of leaving?
Um, let's say, as I already told you, people in Mariupol were left to fend for this themselves,
Yeah.
and they just tried to survive. And rumors spread throughout the city. Like, let's say there was some potential green corridors, yeah, because some humanitarian organizations tried to, you know, arrange them. But in fact, there weren't any green corridors. Like, maybe de jure they were, but de facto, we just sit in the car. We had like 20 minutes to get some clothes whatsoever for the first time, and just put a white cloth on the car handles and go out the city and say goodbye to other nearest and dearest who left there. And then it was a real long path to Berdiansk and then to Zaporizhia, so we decided to take this road, but there were some other possible ones.
And
So we
did you
decided
manage to
to,
avoid, like, were there checkpoints or anything going out of the city?
yeah, yeah, there were checkpoints that time,
Russian checkpoints
but
or
there,
Ukrainian checkpoints?
no, not Ukrainian,
Russian.
Russian ones,
And they let you
with
through.
letter Z, right? With letter Z. When I saw this, I started thinking maybe I'm dead, and it's like I don't know, like probably hell, because it's definitely not a paradise. Like I'm in hell, you know. Yeah, there were some Russian checkpoints, but there were any filtration, you know,
Yeah.
stuff camps at that time. So I
Yeah.
would say we were lucky ones.
Yeah,
So
just a
we
quick word for the people who don't know what's happened in Ukraine. A lot of the time there were these filtration camps where people would be separated out, people who
Yeah.
had Ukrainian language on their phone or pro-Ukrainian tattoos or who were on certain lists would be taken off, often to torture camps. People would often be disappeared. People would often wind up dead in the forests months later or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, euphemistically called filtration camps.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You're telling the truth. That's right. And
yeah,
that was a day, as I already told you, when the bomb landed on a drama
yeah,
theater. We have
killed hundreds
even
of
some
people.
acquaintances there. Let's say blissfully they were survived, like the acquaintances we had here. But that time I didn't know whether my relatives were there or not. And actually, for some hours when I heard it in my car, so like we already have like some phone service. I didn't remember this. I was kind of in a dream or hysterical dream because literally I was away. And for me, it was even worse being again in a relatively safe place, if I may say that, than in Mariupol, because I at least could take something under my
Yeah.
control. Yeah. So here's
And
our cognitive biases. Yeah.
so where did
During
you go? Where did you go initially?
Dnipro.
Okay.
Dnipro.
Did you know people there or?
Um, I just have like some acquaintances there, but let's start. We have to build our life from the fresh start,
Yeah.
and then I started finding some friends, let's say, and build a normal routine, if I may say that.
And when did you realize or hear that Mariupol had fallen?
Uh, so it was in a month when just I reached out to my close people there. A month, so I didn't know whether it's like their life or not. So it was like a nightmare, let's say, a long dream. Then I knew that one of my grandmother, was killed by shrapnel from a shell that exploded near her house. For a long time, her body remained outside because it was impossible to bury her, and her body was identified by certain distinctive features. The same fate befell my cousin and close people, and it was the day I knew that some other people survived. Let's say it was in April, at the end of the April, I think it was 28th of April 2022,
Yeah.
approximately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there must be people that you knew who are still there who didn't manage to get out.
Yeah, I have some people who actually hadn't managed to get out because it wasn't like, let's say, just a route as a journey. You stay there,
Yeah.
yep, because you had to. Um, but I would say that I still believe that there are a lot of people who are in Mariupol who actually just forced to be there. Yeah, it wasn't like their like like, let's say, the prosperity life or just an occupation, and they still need support,
Yeah.
and they still is waiting for the occupation in all senses it might mean, because the occupation is not only about freeing the territories. So yeah, it's complicated.
And so you haven't been back to Mariupol obviously since then. And at the same time, I mean, I know that you've had like Russian fashion influencers going to Mariupol and doing photo shoots in the ruins, and people buying apartments as holiday homes on the bones of
Mm-hmm.
dead Ukrainians. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the question is. How do you cope with that yourself? How do you process that? How does maybe it's a stupid question. I don't know. How do you process
No,
that yourself?
it's great
I
question.
I
I
just can't
mean,
imagine how it must feel to know that all that's happening to your hometown.
it's quite a range of emotions. So one day I might be at my wit's end. One day I try to get a grip on myself, but for sure, therapy helps me out with that, definitely.
Yeah.
So I just really need to focus that I'm going on. Still, I need to help our country and just live inside in my destructive aggression. I won't help Ukrainians,
Yeah.
with this. So
Yeah.
I have to work more on my sanity. Just I don't know, just to refocus, just a little bit. But for sure, when I just saw it with my own eyes, and I know that a lot of stuff is just a bullshit there. For sure, it just pisses me off. At least, just makes my blood boils. For
Yeah.
sure, like I'm human being.
I remember watching. I'll put a link to it later for people who are outside Ukraine and can face watching it. There was a film called
Mm-hmm.
Chronicles of Hell, Mariupol, and they were talking about how when the Russians finally came into the city centre, one of the things they did is to drive round and claim that they were liberating the city
Mm-hmm.
from the Ukrainians who'd been bombing them. And I just think that level of cynicism and just this kind of it's pure evil cynicism. It's really hard to kind of imagine what kind of person you have to be to shell somewhere for a month and then come in and lie to the people who've survived your shelling. Yeah.
100%.
I guess the question I was probably asking was how do you stay sane? And you've kind of answered that already. Yeah.
Give
So
or take.
when did you go back to teaching? How did you manage to do that? How was it?
Um, yeah, I would say actually I'm renewing my classes because I have to work. I really needed money.
Yeah.
So literally I was like checked on my students. That time a lot of them were from Mariupol, so I just make sure that they are in a safer place
Yeah.
and they were in Europe or in Ukraine, and we just renew our classes. Then I got some invitations from some online schools and I chose one to work with, like as a collaboration. Then I became even teacher's mentor to help out with lesson frames and some other stuff that new teachers at school should know before they start to teach groups or whatsoever. So let's say my teaching path mm, was developing, compared to the past years. I know probably the stress gave me different perspective on my work and what can I do with this kind of a mission
Yeah.
myself. So yeah,
And
I would
and
be
do,
glad.
do you find that the impact of the war on your students impacts what happens in the classroom?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it was, let's say, about the topics we started, yet they just try to create more tailor-made classes as for the events are going on, especially in Ukraine and in the world. So it became like more custom
Yeah.
classes. Um, Probably the communication also changed for the better. And I would say I just started to passively find a lot of new students,
Yeah.
which more about like my mindset and what's
Can't hear you. Your voice has gone again. 1 minute. You've got another notification of some kind. Can't hear you. Yeah,
so
that's it.
I think my
Okay.
internet is acting up a bit. Yeah, sorry for that. Mm-hmm.
So I guess just to kind of wrap up, really, how, how do you feel now about what's happening and the weeks and months ahead? And when you hear people like Trump talking about ceasefires and
Mm-hmm.
peace, and people in the West kind of telling Ukrainians that they should just give up 20% of their country and that will bring them peace, and how do you feel, and what do you feel about the coming sort of months and year?
Good question. So, let me start this way. A negotiated settlement is an inherently bad idea. Yeah, like wars often end with agreements, and we know this.
Yeah.
But it depends on what terms, right?
Yeah.
So, in terms giving up our land, people, future, that's not a peace. It's just postponing
Yeah.
what we already witnessed
Yeah.
in 2014. And I'm talking about even for the history that actually we have for centuries and relations with Russia. And a real settlement would mean Russia withdrawing completely, returning deported Ukrainians, facing accountability. There is some guarantees that work for our future. Until then, it's not a peace at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just my opinion. For sure, maybe it's a bit populistic. I don't know, but I don't
No,
know
no.
what
I
to.
mean, it seems absolutely clear to me. I mean, if it was England, there's no way I would want to see an occupying army sitting in 20% of my country and hoping that they don't
Yeah.
come for 25 or 30 or 35 or 40%.
And
You know, and I think this whole idea of wars end with negotiated settlements. Well, some wars do and some wars don't. You know, I don't remember the Second World War ending with a negotiated settlement. And I think the war we're in at the moment has to end with a defeat for Russia, whatever that's going to look like.
And you know what I wanted to add here? So I wanted to tell about my former classmate. His name is Valery Akhman, and he has been in captivity since 2022. He was taken prisoner in Mariupol, later held in Alenivka, where he suffered his second injury, if I'm mistaken, after shelling, and after that his location was confirmed in Taganrog.
Olenvika
So
was where they shelled the actual place where
yeah,
they were holding the prisoners. Yeah,
yeah, you're right.
yeah.
Yes. So I really wanted to say this because maybe some people who just watching that who can help out with that, because we actually they're friends, ex-classmates. We don't know what to do officially. It's already done everything that is possible, but it's the fourth year is going on,
And he's
and
in
he is in such
Taganrog now. Yeah.
conditions.
You think he's in Taganrog now? Yeah.
Yeah, and I know for sure. Okay, I can't be like sure this for 100%, but he's alive. But it's anything else we know. And I wanted to add that it's never too late to take responsibility because there is no expiration date for it.
Yeah.
But until it's fully taken, it'll be a burden for Russians and their next generations.
Yeah.
And the longer it takes, the greater consequences. The more the more lives it
Yeah.
steals.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need this freedom, and not as a so-called liberation from evil, but the true freedom in its fullest sense. Because we have always known that for sure what it really means, and we will obtain this.
I've just finished reading that new Timothy Snyder book about freedom, on freedom, and obviously, there you go. And this thing he talks about, where he talks about it's not just freedom from something, it's freedom to be able to do things, and that it's too simple to think about freedom as liberation from the Russians or liberating your territory. It's also then about creating societies in which people are free to be their unique, unpredictable selves, and which society is free to think about the
Yeah,
next
I go
generation.
on with it.
You
I,
know, and you know, I wish I was optimistic about the possibility of Russia getting to a stage where they might think about their next generations and think about improving their own qualities of life. But you know, I think as Ukraine shows, that's something you have to fight for. And thank you so much for sharing your story, Iryna. it was probably the most moving and harrowing story I've had on all of the months and months of doing this. And you're incredibly brave to be able to talk about it in a foreign language on your first ever Instagram live.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your experiences. And I hope to meet somewhere in the flesh at some point. And until then, Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
Yeah.
And thanks for such a great discussion. For me, it's like one of a kind experience. Thanks for invitation.
Thank
It
you.
means like a world for me, but even more for all of us Ukrainians, which are really grateful, for your support, constant support.
Thank you.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you. I'll stop before I get all emotional again. I already had the thing last week in Kharkiv when we were doing the session, and we had the Ukrainian national anthem and the minute silence, and it just completely kind of destroys me watching it. So there you go. Thank you, and thanks for everything you're doing, and here's hoping for justice and victory in the future.
Yeah. Thank you very
Take
much.
care, yeah.
До свидания.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.